Welcome back to Rev It Up Bowling. My name is Jason Robarge, and today we're going to be talking about surface. What I want to do today is explain the differences on what surface can do to a ball and give you a visual as far as a ball going down the lane along with Specto on how those surface changes will affect your bowling ball. I do believe surface is one of the underrated things about most league bowlers. I mean, when we talk about the pros, they completely understand that. But I definitely have times where in my pro shop, people will come in wanting a new ball because their other ball isn't doing something specific. That's fine and all for a pro shop owner. I make more money doing that. However, I do believe there's cheaper ways to adjust how the ball will react, and that's with surface. So I always let my customers know that, before we go spend a lot more money on a bowling ball, let's change some surfaces. If it's, putting the surface on, polishing the ball, whatever the case may be, and that'll get you maybe an idea on where we're gonna go and like what you're looking for. If we can't correct what you're looking for with surface, then we can talk maybe about a different bowling ball. I'm gonna get lined up with my Sensor Solid. Currently right now it's at 4,000 polish. Basically what I wanna do is throw in the exact same spot, get lined up with this ball, and then adjust the surface accordingly. We're gonna do 4,000 polish, 1,000 polish, 4,000, 2,000, 1,000, and 500. Kind of the basic surfaces for the most part. I'm gonna be throwing them all in the exact same spot. So besides, me as a human, some human error, and the lane breaking down just ever so slightly, you should still be able to see the differences with the surfaces. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so let's get lined up with this. I have thrown some warm-up shots, so I kind of know where I'm supposed to go, but let's give you guys an idea. I will be going over the Specto as well, just to explain kind of like the ball shape, but in numbers. Everyone sees it, but to associate numbers with it, for some people, a nerd like me, helps a lot. So let's get into it. So a good one. All right, that was pretty good. So with 4,000 polish, as you'll probably see on the Specto, when you polish a ball, you're reducing the coefficient of friction between the ball and the lane. Now, it does provide a more flat surface that the ball will ride on. It's almost like, I always explain it like a snow tire versus a drag slick. Drag slick's not gonna have any traction on oil or on ice, right? If you're talking about a tire. When you polish a ball, it's gonna wanna store energy up and be more violent when it does transition. So typically you're gonna get a farther down lane motion and a little bit sharper transition when it does hook. So typically you're gonna have a higher entry angle for the most part, depending on where you're throwing. But the biggest thing is it will get through the heads a little bit better and be able to produce a more violent reaction down lane. So with that, let's go ahead and change the surface and we'll get back into it. All right, now that we put 1,000 polish on here, I am using the Ultimate Black Magic polish. I'm using this stuff. I do enjoy it a lot. I've always had good success with it. And as a pro shop owner, the price isn't ridiculous, so it's kind of nice. But there's other polishes out there from Brunswick themselves. Obviously they own Ultimate. Vice, of course, you have the Storm products, and even Creating the Difference in True Cut. So you can always check them out. All right, same spot. What I would expect to happen with this one with the 1,000 underlay on the polish, it's gonna be a little bit smoother, but if I had to guess, maybe like a half board more overall hook just because it's starting earlier. And that's one thing you guys are gonna notice, that when you put more surface on the ball, it doesn't necessarily make it hook more, but it hooks earlier. So when it finishes its hook phase, it's heading left earlier, like farther away from the head pin. So as it travels down that 20, 30 feet, it's gonna end up farther left. Does surface make your ball hook more? Yes, in a way, but it really just makes it hook earlier, and then given geometry, it's going to end up farther left down lane because it hooks so much earlier. Let's give this a shot. Same spot, same everything. All right, so optically what I saw on that one, and I'll look at the Specto as well. Optically what I saw on that one was, I felt like it hooked a little bit earlier and it extended the transition zone a little bit more. There's typically, for the most part, 3 phases of ball motion. You have the skid, the hook, and the roll. With polish, we're gonna be reducing the roll phase and increasing the skid phase. So it's gonna skid farther down lane, be sharper to transition, and have a little bit less roll phase, including transition, because it's transition quicker. So as I saw on this one, everything looked pretty good. I was half a board right at the arrows, so it might have gotten into the dry a little bit more, but for the most part, everything else was very similar, and it did hook roughly, it started its transition zone, according to the Specto, about a foot or two earlier, 43 instead of 45. So now we're gonna go ahead and take off the polish. We're gonna put 4,000 on it, and I will be doing this on the spinner. When I get down to 1,000, I'm a big advocate of doing 1,000 or less, 1,800, 500, whatever the case may be, by hand. I feel like you get a better grit and it doesn't just skim across the top. So we're gonna hop into the Pro Shot, put 4,000 on this bad boy, and we'll get back into it. Now that we put 4,000 on this, again, I did it on the spinner. What I would hypothesize with this it's not drastically different from, you know, the 1,000 polish. Think it's gonna may hook a little bit earlier, but still be pretty quick to transition. 4,000 is not a lot of surface. And I wouldn't expect me to have to move a whole lot if I did have to move. I just don't think I would have to. So we're gonna go and throw the same shot. Again, what I would hypothesize to be pretty similar probably to the 1,000 polish, but give me, I think it's gonna transition pretty similar. Like a 1,000 polish to a 4,000. Yeah, you don't have the 4,000, but you have a lot less grit. So I would probably expect it to be pretty similar. So let's see if that hypothesis is correct. All right, that was pretty good. I feel like it was very, very similar. So let's look at the Specto data. So yeah, 16 at the arrow is very similar to my other ones, all within about a board. The entry angle was a little higher. No, it's about the same, So everything about that really mimicked the 1,000 polish. So as you can see, you can have surfaces that will be pretty close to themselves if it's a 4,000 or 1,000 polish. It just depends on how you need to utilize them. Again, polish will get the ball down the lane or less surface in general. As you go down in the number, you're gonna put more surface on the ball and it should start reading a little bit earlier, be a little bit smoother. It will probably cover more boards in general because it is just hooking that much earlier on the lane. So let's go ahead and put 2,000 on this ball. I do have a 3,000, but I do wanna see a big difference. So I'm gonna go ahead and put 2,000 on it. Just keep in mind, kind of split that difference with 3. So let's go ahead and put 2,000 on it and get back into it. All right, now that we've put 2,000 on this, we're gonna go ahead and give it a shot. I'm gonna probably guess that it's definitely gonna be earlier. It's a pretty big difference from 4,000 to 2,000. I would expect it, if anything was going to go high, it's gonna be starting now. As we get lower in, especially when we throw 500 on this thing, it's probably gonna jump through the face. But let's go ahead and see what it looks like. All right, little 2,000. All right, well, I just need to change surface in league all the time, evidently. So far, what I kind of see on that one is it definitely picked up a little earlier. Yeah, it says breakpoint's at 44. The other one's at 45, 46 or so. What I definitely saw with that was it slowed down a little bit more in the mid lanes. It looks like it's pretty similar to the 4,000 so far, but I definitely optically did see it pick up a little bit more in the mid lane. We are on house shot, so there's gonna be tons of forgiveness. Maybe I should have done this on a flat pattern, but either way, again, I just want to sit here and struggle the whole time. So far what I've seen is definitely the difference between like the 4,000 polish to like the 2,000 is it's much smoother now than it was before. The 4,000, you could see it, you'll look at the Specto data, it does slow down roughly 3 miles an hour on all the shots. Actually, it's surprisingly pretty similar, but the biggest thing, kind of what I've seen so far, is where it's picking up on the lane. The 2,000 is definitely like two feet earlier or so than the 4,000 polish. Once we start again getting to the 1,500, you're really gonna notice it. Right now, I don't know how I have such a good look. I wish I could do this in league. Yeah, what we're gonna do is go ahead and throw the 1,000 on, give you guys a shot shape, an idea in your brain, and go from there. So we'll be back in a second. All right, now that we've put 1,000 onto the Sensor Solid, we're gonna go ahead and give it some shots. I know I've been striking out this whole time. I expected something to jump through the face by now. It just hasn't. So I would expect this to definitely pick up a little too early and jump through the face. I think this thing out of factory came at like 2,000. And I know for the house shot here, I did have to take some surface off of it in order to tame the mids down a lot. So let's see what this does. It's in the exact same place we did with all the other ones. There it is, finally. So as you can see on that one, for sure, it picked up much, much earlier. So if we look at the Specto data, it looks like the breakpoint was at 42 foot. comparative to the 44, 46, some of the other shots were. What you're gonna notice too is the ball's not gonna get as far right because it's hooking so much earlier. So even though my angles through the heads and everything were very similar to the other shots, it just didn't make it far enough right and it started hooking. So you're starting to see now where surface comes into play. If you need that ball to hook earlier and be more mid-laney, you're gonna want more surface. Obviously the type of ball and the drilling can matter as well, but we're just talking about surface right now. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put this at 500, and these are fresh pads, so they are very true. Everyone knows like a fresh pad, typically, you know, it wears out pretty quickly the first time or two you put surface on the ball. So I just wanna keep it consistent, just use fresh pads this whole time. We're gonna go ahead and put 500 on it. Here, you're really gonna see this ball pick up a little bit earlier, be a little bit smoother as far as it's gonna elongate the transition zone. And then roll out left. Like, there's just no way that the ball is gonna be able to hold itself right long enough to enter the pocket. This is definitely gonna pick up earlier and just truck left. So let's go ahead and test that hypothesis and put some 500 on it. All right, our last test of the day. I went ahead and put 500 on this. Again, a fresh pad. Go ahead and see how it rolls. There's no way I'm touching the pocket on this, but we're gonna see what happens. All right, get lined up, same spot, 7 shots in or so. Wow, so that one I definitely pulled a little left compared to the other ones. It stayed in the oil a little bit more, but even then, it still wanted to pick up in the mid lanes. So if I was to throw this ball right, I would expect it to see that friction really early. And with the added friction of the ball, now that we put 500 on it, I would expect it to just be too much friction between the dry lane and the ball, and it's just gonna spark and burn up most likely, but it's just not gonna stay right at the head pin. Again, I wanted to bring you guys something to give you a visual on what surface can do. The differences between like 4,000 and 500 is pretty extreme, but as you can see based off the results of the shots and some of the specto data, it only does change it slightly. So it's kind of a progressive scale. When you guys are wanting to surface a bowling ball, talk to your pro shop operator, or if you can do it at home, if you have a spinner, or even just want to do hand surface, that's totally fine. But just keep in mind when you're in league and not getting the right ball shape, or maybe you are getting what you think is the right ball shape, but you're not getting the corners out, leaving the flat 10s or ring 10s. Think about surface. So I always try to tell people, make sure you clean your stuff, resurface it. I guess you could technically resurface it and put a fresh surface on that as well, but surface your bowling ball in a way that you're going to benefit yourself. So like, do yourself a favor and work on the cover stock and try to match it up with what the lane's giving you. If you can keep a consistent surface on your bowling ball, that's just another variable that you don't have to worry about as much. But with that said, I wanted to thank you guys for all the support so far on the videos. We hit 10,000 on one of our first videos. So between Ace and I, we're very, very grateful for the support, and we look forward to seeing what we can do in the future. With that said, my name is Jason Robarge. This is Rev It Up Bowling. Much love, peace.